So the big change for Razorgore, outside of Razorgore just having more health, is that when we will see at a certain point, they might pan over and look that there's a giant egg in the middle of the room. So this is Zolpi's perspective. It's whose perspective. This giant egg in the middle of the room, when it hatches, and it will hatch during the egg phase, during phase 1 of Razorgore, it spawns a big chromatic ad that has unique abilities for each school of magic, and you basically have to off-tank or deal with this ad throughout the fight. All right, so here we go. Who jumping in here super early. Did not take them very long to pull. They are probably already having someone do the MC on this fight. So if you don't know Razorgore, as it was throughout all of Classic, there's this orb on that platform they were just on, and you have to have one member of the raid interact with that orb, and it mind controls Razorgore. And in order to get through the first phase of the fight, you have to have that mind controlled Razorgore pop all of these eggs. And once all the eggs are popped, you can actually fight Razorgore and kill him. Or her. Who knows? So while that is happening, you'll see the raid is split up in these 4 different corners. There are going to be ads that spawn in all 4 of these corners. And in SOM, I believe these ads spawn more frequently. So that is just another additional thing that you have to deal with. Most of the ads are like designed in such a way that they will either go after like the orb platform that they're going to right now, or they're going to go after, you know, whoever has the most threat, which is typically a healer. So you kind of want to have people grouped in each of those 4 corners ready to pick up the ads right away, just so that they're not going and killing anybody or touching anybody that they shouldn't. If that mind controller gets tapped at any point, even by a cleave effect, it'll pull them out of the mind control, and they will have a debuff where they are unable to mind control for a certain amount of time. So if at any point that mind control gets broken when it shouldn't be, you have to have someone run over and do a new mind control. You can mitigate this by having someone stand kind of like in a cheesy spot down under that platform, and then mind control from there. It'll help avoid cleaves. And so this is the unstable chromatic drake, right? And you're going to see it's doing like a poison damage effect right now. Well, it's actually like a sleep cloud. There's the, like, I believe the poison cloud that's now floating around. So they're having a bunch of their DPS, it looks like, focus down this drake. So it looks like they probably have sort of a skeleton crew that is dealing with the regular ads that are spawning, and maybe they're picking up what they can while they kill this drake. But the rest of the raid, or a certain group of the raid, it looks like, are focusing this drake down, which if you're able to manage the rest of the ads, I think that this is a good thing to do. However, I think for a normal guild, for say, yeah, I can close the prediction. I would say that, like, if a hardcore guild, for instance, were to try this, that just off-tanking that ad is probably going to be the safest thing that you can do. You can already see, like, these ads are starting to sort of take over the room. And you see those different effects that are popping up on the ground. A lot of those different effects are coming from that chromatic drake. So it is almost like a second boss, right? Like, this is, it's not like an ad coming out of one of these corners that you can just like DPS down and get rid of. Like that chromatic drake is sort of a second boss that you either deal with during this egg phase, or you kind of off tank and deal with after the fact. So you can see, I think they're having their DPS focus down the normal ads, and when there aren't as many normal ads up, they are sending them back over to focus on this unstable chromatic drake. So Zolpi doesn't have any ads in his corner, so he's over here fighting this drake. You've got this, like, this ruby flames breath effect that is all the way across the room. That is coming from the chromatic drake. This is a completely new ability, completely new thing. This chromatic drake is a giant stick in the wheel that is causing some problems, but they're handling it well so far. It looks like healer mana is about half across the board. They have, let's see the next time. So they've popped 21 of the 30 eggs. So they've got 9 more eggs that they need to pop before they can engage Razorgore. They've gotten the chromatic drake down below 50%. And they're able to They're actually, yeah, so they cleaned up a bunch of the ads, so they sent a bunch of their DPS back over here to try to get it cleaned up. I don't think that they need to kill this before Razorgore comes out. I don't think that that's essential. I think they're just trying to maximize their DPS. So if they don't need their DPS killing these like regular corner ads, then they might as well send it on the Chromatic Drake. It looks like their clicker got killed, so Razorgore is currently out in the open. They don't have anybody doing the mind control. I think they just had someone pick it up, but they probably got cleaved right there. So MS or Misk, who is that last member of the raid, I believe, was their mind control person that was using Razorgore to pop all those eggs. They died. So Razorgore was running around killing people. It looks like they got it back under control, though. They still have this Chromatic Drake just casting these spells and effects that are covering the room, including this Ruby Breath. It looks like the mind control is doing well, though. We'll wait and see what the next egg spawn count is at. They've got the Chromatic Drake down to like 16% now. Now I wonder what the strategy is here. If you actually delay popping the final eggs until you kill this Chromatic Drake. So the Chromatic Drake is down now, so all the DPS can sort of go back to managing the regular ads. I believe they have 4 more eggs left to go. My guess is that in a different run, they would probably try to time it so that the Chromatic Drake dies at roughly the exact same time they finish with all the eggs. They just dealt with their mind controller dying. So now they're doing this sort of catch up, and this should actually help them quite a bit, because they're gonna have time for their healers to regen some mana. If you can see right now, it looks like most of their priests are close to They do have one that's about 50%, and then 2 of their paladins are the other 2 are definitely below 50%, so not a lot of mana across healers. Looks like Razorgore is actually loose now, and they're going to pick it up. So Razorgore is going to do a Conflag ability and cast an AoE Fireball. So we'll see how many abilities it actually gets off. The Razorgore's health is just plummeting so much faster than that Chromatic Drake's. So this is looking really good so far. I'm guessing that we might see like 1 Fireball volley before it actually dies. Maybe not. Oh, not even 1. So Razorgore, super easy. No problems there. They are now engaging Vaelstraz. You can see that Vaelstraz is at 60% health, roughly, I believe, to start this fight. So that is way faster and higher than we have seen in the past that you might be used to. Burning Adrenaline works way differently in Season of Mastery. So instead of it being a guaranteed death after a certain amount of time, it is a stacking and building debuff. So it does more damage over time, and you as a player actually end up with a faster attack speed or a faster cast speed over time as well. So instead of it being instant cast and a static amount of damage over time, it's an increasing amount of damage over time, and it's an increasing cast and attack speed over time. Now, we're going to see, so they have Burning Adrenaline on a few different people. I believe you still have players get the bomb effect. Like ranged mana casters are still going to get the bombs. This fight is very much just about making sure that the right people stay at the top of threats. The worst thing that can happen here is for someone to pull threat and for Vaelstraz to do a Flame Breath on the raid, or to do a Tail Swipe on the raid, or anything like that. You can see there in the back left, people are still getting that bomb for the mana users, and they're still having to run away from the raid and blow up. This is currently Press W. They are a guild on Jomgabar. Okay, that's a main tank down. That's pretty huge. You are going to have some... Oh my goodness, they're just... I guess, like, there's no way of knowing if this is actually all Press W people that are running back, or if this is just the main tank that's running back. I think that you would plan for a tank to go down and make sure that you have off tanks behind them and threat ready to go, but that did not seem planned. The fact that you have a Feral Druid charging in, grabbing aggro, and turning it. So they are pulling everything all together here. So this is already looking a lot different than suppression rooms that we've seen in the past. They're dealing with this this wigging out trap. We'll see how they decide to deal with this. And just had a trap come up in the middle of the raid. Yeah, so those traps, I think, just do a lightning effect damage if you get too close to them. Is not a huge deal if you're able to just run by them, but if you get suppressed while you're running by them, that's probably pretty bad. It's just an added effect, right? So in addition to the traps working as they did, and it looks like they don't stay down, right? So these traps are popping up. I know that at one point in the beta, they had changed it so that the traps just stayed down after rogues disarmed them. But I think that might have just been for the beta itself. Man, look at the chain lightning effect coming out from these like wonky traps. I can see how that would be put in place just to punish people that have the trap effect as they try to go through. Now, Broodlord, again, can slap super hard. We have the knockback threat drop mechanic, but they are just pounding through Broodlord super fast here. If you kill it fast enough, you can avoid the mechanics. That's sort of the mantra of a lot of these top guilds, especially who these guys are veterans of Classic WoW. They're one of the top TBC guilds at the moment. So they're probably going to be, especially in SOM, where mechanics seem to be the new thing, doing everything in your power to be able to avoid them is going to be pretty essential. So they're getting through this without any deaths. It's going to make it easier for the rest of this run. Now they don't have to deal with the suppression of room anymore. They did get a Maladath. My goodness. Oh, now it's targetable. Yeah, so I think this is... I'm not sure if this is actually the NA who, because this is on Dreadnought, right? All right, so they're fighting this in the conventional spot. You can see, like, Zolp's already got 2 of these static electricity charges right off the bat. Now they've got 3 of them. They are just already building up these static electricity charges. I'm guessing that they are just going to try to zug this all the way down without dealing with the mechanics as much as they can. You can see across the nameplates the number of charges each person has, as well as the number of fire stacks each person has. So once people start hitting that 10 mark on those static electricity charges, they're going to start dealing a bunch of damage to the people around them. I'm not sure if you can resist the static charges, but the static charges only build when you take damage. So we're going to see if anybody actually hits 10. My guess is that Zolp is probably going to hit 10 here. Okay, so there's 8. I wonder if they're just doing this in such a way, because those static charges, they don't ever go away. I think they continue to build and they stay on you while the boss is still going. I think they just had an off tank go down. This should be fine. So yeah, I think the strategy here is just avoid as much damage as you can, and then yeah, just avoid the mechanic altogether. So Zolp got to 9 stacks of the static electricity charge and just stayed out for the rest of the fight. Position them and fight them. I assume they're going to all move up and fight them up top where they are now instead of pulling them down. One of the things that both of these drakes did in Classic was they built up attacks, right? So if you pulled them too far, as they traveled, they would actually build up attacks, and once they got there, they would do a thrash, and they would hit you with every attack that they built up over time. It looks like, okay, quick threat issue here. They're kind of taking these guys, it looks like, to this back wall, but at very different spots along this back wall. We'll see when this first wing buffet goes out what exactly happens here. It looks like the majority of the raid is focusing Flamegor, which kind of makes sense. Flamegor is the one with the frenzy effect. You need, or ideally you would have, 3 hunters, because the frenzy effect is so fast that the cooldown on Trank Shot is long enough that you actually have to have 3 hunters in order to prevent frenzy from having any sort of uptime. So that's probably why they brought 3 hunters here. Once this one boss goes down, I can go and focus Ebonroc. Ebonroc is the one that heals, which is probably why they are doing Flamegor first, right? So that they don't have to deal with, you know, an elongated fight, because the Drake that they focus on is the one that heals over time. They're actually leaving Flamegor super early to come over here and start working on Ebonroc. I wonder if you have to kill them within a certain amount of time of one another. That would be my other question. Or maybe, so there's like these stacking buffs, debuffs on them. I wonder if that's also a part of it. We will see. There's another wing buff it casts. If one dies, the other enrages. So that makes sense, right? That does make sense. I tried to pull up and look at this stuff earlier on stream, and it completely crashed my stream. Thank you, Wowhead. They have, looks like one death already. One of the tanks, I believe, getting super low. I don't know if Dark Moon Fair is up right now, but even if it was, you would not be allowed to use the Dark Moon Fair buff in a raid setting. They pull at the same time now. That's how these bosses work. They pull at the same time. So you can see Flamegor is enraged now that Ebonroc is dead. They're just going to come over here and try to kill. Oh, do they res one another? Okay. Okay. The one way that you can actually avoid Chromaggus' breath is when someone has the blue dragon debuff, the mana burn one, you have to, like, leading up to a breath, remove the blue dragon effect, and that creates an ice block, which we just saw there on the left side. That ice block is the only thing that people can stand behind in order to avoid breaths. You can see there's already poison effects out on the floor. There's already fire effects out on the floor. We can see that there's like fireworks going off in the raid when people use sand buffs. Frost breath just went out. And got a bunch of people there. There's a few ice blocks. It looks like the ice blocks do actually last for a decent amount of time. And it looks like they're not actually worrying too much about getting rid of them, right? I would think that guilds might need to plan out how and when they remove the blue dragon effect, but it looks like they are just like opting to just get rid of it every single time. Nice little weak aura here to let people know whether or not they're behind an ice block, whether they are hiding. You also have that sleep effect going out. That is, I think, when you dispel the green dragon effect. You can see there's fire throughout the room. There's all kinds of effects. It's looking a lot more like retail every single day. But they do have that nice little like classic scuffedness to them. Hiding behind this ice tomb. I don't know if the weak aura actually trivializes the new thing. It just lets you know whether or not you are fully out of LOS or not. Dragging Chromaggus just out into the middle of the room here. Why not? It gives people some area to work to avoid different things. A bunch of ice tombs going out. Breath in a couple seconds. Zolp is just like playing on the very edge of all of this. Bronze effect going out. Zolp, immediate sand usage. I think that was his only sand. Some people have died. But it looks like it worked pretty well. Chromatic boots, which is pretty good.
Clean. Super good.
Very minimal deaths. Look at all these ice blocks in the back here. So they actually do stand for they stay up for quite a while. So that's pretty important to know. We got this first phase of Nefarion. Pretty typical here. Chromatic. Oh man, they are spawning quite quickly though, it looks like. We have bronze draconoids spawning over here on the throne side. Yeah. Oh, and green draconoids. Okay, so there's a mixture now. This is important. That's what I was wondering. I wanted to verify that. So now, instead of it being a set type of draconoid spawning from each of these two like tunnels, caves, closets, it looks like it's random. So for a guild like this, it probably doesn't matter very much. But if you are in the type of guild that is not full of rank 14s and super sweaty pumpers, usually you would try to min-max your raid setup in such a way that, you know, your casters would be on the side with the red Draconoids, so that, you know, you could have tanks pick them up, but then you don't have a ton of like close quarters AoE damage going out on your melee. And if you had blue Draconoids, you would want all your melee on that side because they're the ones who do like an AoE mana burn around them. So it looks like that's no longer a thing. You have no way of knowing which color is going to come out of the cave at any time, which means that you kind of just have to split the raid evenly, which I think a lot of guilds were doing throughout Classic anyway. But I don't know if that's like, if that actually makes this any harder. It just maybe just streamlines the process of like, well, there's no point in trying to play that game of which raid squad do we want on each side of the room. It looks like Nefarion is taking off. Wait, was that actually the end of... Oh no, Nefarion's... Man, that was a super quick transition, I felt like. Alright, Nefarion is out. Now this is where it's going to get exciting, because not only does Nefarion have more health, Nefarion also does some new interesting mechanics when class calls go out. So hopefully they don't kill it so fast that we just don't even get to experience this. They're already down to 90% on the boss. The rat looks very, very, very strong. We're going to see, hopefully, the first class call here soon. Yeah, that is most likely a Resto Druid. I cannot imagine them bringing anything else. All right, so there was a Warlock call. You've got Infernals out in the raid. Man, 4 Infernals from only 1 Warlock. Oh, and look, you've got little Shadow Bolt volleys shooting at the raid. It looks like whenever those pass over your character model, they are doing damage to you. But it looks like it's probably not like a ridiculous amount of damage. But I have a feeling that those are going to stay for the rest of the fight. So you can see those little Shadow Bolt volleys going and going and going and going. So you kind of can just position yourself to avoid them the best that you can. Looks like this next call, Priest call. So that means healers are no longer, or priests are no longer able to heal directly. Otherwise it'll put a stacking dot on the recipient of the heals. It looks like there is a sort of like a mind flay effect going off now on different members of the raid. But otherwise, it seems like pretty manageable so far. People just, this DPS are sort of just swapping who is dealing with that mind flay effect. Looks like you have a mage call going out. Ooh, arcane explosion effect. Oh, straight into the ads. Very nice, very nice. Bunch of the ads immune to that grenade damage. Nefarion going down, though. Oh my goodness. 2 mishes? Double mish. Oh, man. So they basically avoided having to deal with I think they only had, what, 3 class calls there. So they had the Warlock one into Priest into Mage. So this fight, I think, is going to be a lot scarier for guilds that are not able to kill it that quickly. But yes, one of the added bonuses of the recent Season Mastery patch is that they have an extra piece of loot, and it can be any extra piece of loot.